Clarence Hudson White, he was always known as Clarence H. White, took up photography around 1894-95 with no formal training, and he wasn't satisfied to just be a Kodaker. In fact, he never had a Kodak camera. He immediately bought a large format plate camera, and I think that indicates that he wanted to take pictures that were in the realm of art. As a teacher, I think he's one of the first people to teach formal elements. He talked a lot about composition, and that becomes the basis for what is now established as fine arts photographic teaching, but it was not normal before him. This is a period in which photography, as well as the visual arts, completely change. And in fact, the exhibition that I'm working on is trying to place Clarence White in this larger context within the American cultural scene, the up-and-coming market for photography at the time.
When you have such an influential figure, someone who is so significant in the history of the medium, extracting some of his DNA, those essential markers that make this artist who he was, is going to be fascinating for my research.
There are two major archives of Clarence White's photographs that came down through his family long after his death. He dies in 1925. One of them ended up in the Library of Congress. The other archive is up here at Princeton.
I had been studying pictorialist photography before coming to Princeton, and part of my choice to come here is that we have all these amazing resources in terms of the history of pictorialism as it's exemplified by the Clarence White collection.
He experimented with all kinds of different techniques, and he worked in the period when photography was transitioning from a scientific medium to a legitimate artistic medium. So to sort of track that transition using a process of bringing the science back into it is really cool.
Anne Macaulay reached out to me to help her begin the process of characterizing the material history of these Clarence White prints for her exhibition.
The challenge of creating an exhibition that spans time is to tell a story and to place the objects in the right period.
It's a lot of work. How can we get to scale on this relatively quickly? And that's when the idea of involving the students came in.
We train freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and they're learning to master the kind of technical tools that we have here that are able to see right through surfaces and to tell us, give us information about materiality. And off they went with our lead scientists off to Princeton to be able to work with their graduate students in art history, their senior art historian, and the collection in order to bring this material to light, opening windows on works of art we never could open before.
One of the reasons we really wanted to involve students, especially at the undergraduate level, they haven't necessarily decided whether they're going to gravitate towards the sciences or the humanities. And this project fundamentally is both. On the sciences side, there's a very major technical component to all of this that involves mastery of very sophisticated analytical equipment.
My role in this project was to train undergraduates who've never worked with a technique like this to feel comfortable operating the instrumentation and to do it safely, and how to interpret the data that we're getting out of it. We chose to use X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, which is a technique that allows us to identify the elements that are present in a photograph. And also it is a technique that we're able to use without interfering with the photographs.
Once the signal is acquired, put it into context. And that's where the humanities part comes in.
As a double major in the sciences and in art history, I'm interested in how scientific thinking can inform art historical work.
I'm seeing through this whole new sort of lens and methodology. This is not a methodology that I use very often, so having this workshop is like a whole new introduction to a set of techniques and tools that I can use.
It sort of showed me not only is this inquiry accessible for someone who does humanities, but it's also something that I can do with a humanities background, with help of people who have a deeper scientific background, but in conjunction with them, that we could work together and to create a project that is much more cohesive because it's not two people working on two different things.
It's as though science and technology suddenly realize that their best friend in the humanities is art. And when they come together and they form this new entity, we are creating the fundamentals of new academic work.
It's a very rare opportunity to be in a very close presence of photographs like this from the 1890s or from the 1910s, over 100 years ago.
It was really exciting being able to work so hands-on with the objects and be really close to them.
Being able to actually interact with these prints, being able to have that object in your hand was so great. I usually don't have access to that sort of thing.
This is the first time that I've gotten to see them really up close.
For me, for someone who doesn't get to see this all the time, it's really great.
What we realized was because of the amount of artworks that we're going to have to process, it was really going to become necessary to do a lot of interpretation as the data was coming in, to think on the fly. So one of the things that really impressed me was when we got to Princeton and we started this project, we were just flying. That was really impressive to see, just to watch the students not only learn something, but really get it built into them that quickly.
This is real life learning.
We're profoundly committed to providing as many hands-on experiences for our students as possible. And I think this is a great example of that, in a way that foregrounds this experience of those students, but then translates that experience into something of value.
The students did a fantastic job over the course of 2 days to use the X-ray fluorescence spectrometers to collect many, many spectra. And we not only analyzed the photograph in several areas, but we also looked at the paper supports for the photographs. And sometimes there are many pieces of paper stuck together. So all of those, if possible, were analyzed separately.
We had an interesting portrait that seemed to be a really straightforward, crisp image that normally you would look at something like that and think it's just a straight platinum print. And the XRF machine was showing us that it had a good deal of chromium, which would point to a gum bichromate printing.
Just a few minutes ago, there is a print labeled as a platinum print, and all of a sudden the student who was working at the station said, well, this is weird. There's this bichromate, so that's what I would call a gum print, but it's something that we thought was a platinum print, so now we think that perhaps it's platinum with gum over it or gum with platinum over it, so something that we thought was your standard simple platinum print is now something more complex.
We're discovering all kinds of new things about these prints, about this collection.
There's a lot more experimentation going on in printing in this art photography moment. And pretty much everything in museums has been classed automatically as this is a platinum print. And a lot of that is turning out to be wrong. What these artists, and they are artists, what they're doing is really very different from print to print. And so I think that we're on the cusp of starting to really look at this material seriously.
This mountain of data is now entered into a database.
It's going into the collection catalog, and the collection catalog is this essential tool for all scholarship. It's the record of what an object is, when it was made, where it was from. Largely was based on inference. No longer. It's based on empirical fact. It's based on the analysis that we were able to do as a collaborative project.
I'm just really particularly delighted that this is the opportunity for a collaboration between Yale and Princeton. And I would simply say I don't think we collaborate often enough. I hope this is the marker of a wave of future collaborations too.